The old man and the tree. He never saw bloom. The sky was painted gold by the morning sun, and the sound of rustling leaves filled the quiet countryside of Meadowbrook village. At the edge of the fields stood an old man, Henry Walker, bent with age. His hands rough and calloused from decades of labor. Every spring, Henry carried the same routine, digging small holes in the ground, gently placing seeds, and whispering softly to the soil as if speaking to a child. This was his ritual, his quiet act of faith, a promise. Planted in the earth 40 years earlier, Henry was a strong young farmer with a small piece of land and an even smaller dream: to turn the barren fields behind his cottage into a lush orchard. His wife, Mary, used to laugh and say, "You and your trees, Henry, you'll turn this whole place into a forest before I can finish one cup of tea." He'd smile and reply, "Maybe that's the plan, love. Someday our grandchildren will play under their shade." But life didn't unfold the way he dreamed. Their first child, a boy named Daniel, passed away at the age of 6 after a sudden illness. The loss shattered Henry and Mary. For months, their home was silent. No laughter, no song, only the soft creak of the rocking chair where Mary used to hum lullabies. One spring morning, Henry took Daniel's favorite wooden toy, a small bird carved from oak, and buried it under the first sapling he planted. "For you, my boy," he whispered. "I'll plant one every spring until I can see this land full of life again." And so began his lifelong promise. The years that passed, every year without fail, Henry planted new trees, even when the rain was cruel, even when drought burned the earth, even when his knees ached and his hands bled. The villagers often teased him kindly. "Old Henry," they'd say, "you'll be long gone before those trees ever bloom." He would just chuckle and reply, "Then maybe they'll remember me when they do." Mary supported him quietly, watering the young plants and leaving breadcrumbs for the sparrows that came to rest on the saplings. She never once questioned his devotion. She understood that every seed he planted carried a memory, a hope, or a prayer. The loneliness of the seasons as the years turned, time began to take more from Henry than it gave. His hair turned white, his back stooped, and his cottage grew emptier. Mary fell ill one harsh winter and never recovered. On the morning after she passed, Henry sat beside the fireplace, staring at her empty rocking chair. The next spring, he walked out to the orchard, alone this time, and planted a new tree beside the others. His hands trembled as he whispered, "For you, Mary, may you rest under the shade of love you helped me grow." He watered it with tears. The orchard that wouldn't bloom. The years rolled on and the trees grew tall, strong, green, and alive, but strangely, none of them ever bloomed. Not a single flower, not a single fruit. Some villagers said the soil was too old. Others said Henry's land was cursed, but Henry never lost faith. He'd walk through his orchard every evening, his fingers brushing the rough bark, his eyes full of quiet belief. "Maybe they're waiting for the right season," he'd murmur. "Everything has its time." His neighbors began calling the place Walker's Silent Orchard. The final spring, when Henry turned 87, his body was too weak to hold a shovel. But he still asked the village boy Tommy to bring him seeds. "Why do you still plant, Mr. Walker?" the boy asked. Henry smiled faintly. "Because faith isn't about seeing the bloom. It's about believing it will come." That spring, he planted his last sapling, a small cherry tree. His hands shook so much that Tommy had to help him cover the roots. Henry placed his palm on the soil and whispered his final prayer. "If not for me, then let them bloom for someone else." That night, he passed away peacefully in his sleep, a gentle smile on his face, like a man who had finished his work. The miracle. After the storm a week later, a great storm swept through Meadowbrook. The villagers feared the orchard would be destroyed. But when the clouds cleared and the sun rose again, something extraordinary happened. For the first time in 40 years, Henry's orchard was covered in blossoms. Thousands of flowers, white, pink, gold, spread across every branch, glowing in the morning light like the heavens themselves had painted them. The air was filled with fragrance, and the birds returned, singing louder than ever before. People from neighboring villages came to see it. They stood in awe before the orchard of the man who never saw it bloom, the man who planted for faith, not reward. Tommy, now grown up, placed a small wooden sign at the orchard's entrance. It read, "Henry Walker's Orchard, the Forest of Faith." He planted trees not to see them bloom, but so others could. Years later, the orchard became a symbol of hope. Children played under the trees. Couples took wedding photos beneath the blossoms, and villagers sat in the shade to rest and dream. Each spring, as the petals fell like snow, the people of Meadowbrook would look up and say, "Old Henry kept his promise." And though he never saw the bloom with his own eyes, his faith had flowered in every heart that remembered him. Moral of the story: not every seed we plant in life blooms within our lifetime. Some dreams, some acts of kindness, some prayers take years or even generations to bear fruit. But every act of love, patience, and faith leaves behind a legacy that will someday blossom, even if we're not there to see it. So, plant your seeds anyway. Believe, even when the bloom seems far away, because miracles always come in their own time.